Welcome to Air Quotes Margin Notes,
a show about stuff.
Welcome to the first episode of Air Quotes and Margin Notes, part of the Brainheads universe.
I really enjoy that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm Prem.
And I'm Eli.
This is a show where we each take 2 D20 and we roll them, and then we have a list of 20 topics and we mish-mash them together. Mm-hmm. So a couple weeks ago, we rolled, and this is the episode about that roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we spent 2 weeks doing our research and finding a way to mash our topics together. So, Prem, what was your 2 subjects?
Paleontology board games.
11.
Board games. This is what I mish-mash with.
Paleontology.
What was yours?
A weird artifact of prehistory. 13. I got weird artifacts.
Weird artifacts.
I'll take that. I forgot my first one. Was that 7? Weird artifacts of prehistory.
I think it is so funny. I feel like because it's such a weird mishmash of topics, I spent so much of my effort focusing on my topic. I forgot what yours was.
Oh, yeah.
Did you forget what mine was or no?
No, I thought about yours because I was wondering where you'd go with it. Because I knew where I would go with it, but I don't know. I have no clue where you went with it.
Okay, so we have to pick who's going to go first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you pick a dice, we'll roll. So this is just to see who does their book report first.
Yeah. I think we should do a D6.
Okay.
And one person picks 1 through 3 and one person picks 4 through 6.
Okay. Not just roll highest.
Oh, we could do roll highest if you want.
Yeah.
Should we do a roll to see which roll we should do?
Yeah. So we take votes from the audience.
Yeah. Which one do you think is more fair? Highest goes first, highest goes last. Yeah. Or 1 through 3 versus 4 through 6.
Oh, we could do Battletech rules. Roll for initiative. Winner goes second. I don't know where we ended up on the...
I don't either.
I think just whoever goes higher.
Well, I think... No, I'm kidding. Okay, we can do whoever goes higher. If people vote for mine, though, we have to switch to mine. Okay. So, as Brennan Lee Mulligan would say, sound off in the comments. Oh, no! Is it in the shot?
A little bit, yeah. You rolled a 1.
I got a 1!
No. Wait, does me have to go first?
Yeah.
I get to choose.
No, you said whoever goes highest. Okay, so I guess you go first.
No. Should have done the Battletech rules. Okay, so I won.
Are you happy that you won?
No, not really. It's like in class when you end up the first person.
Yeah, the first one to present.
You don't want to be the first one.
I wanted to be the first.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think I did my topic about?
Weird artifacts in prehistory. My thought is that you probably tried to find creative art from prehistory, because I feel like that would be weird. You know, like I think my understanding of prehistory is that a lot of stuff was like educational. I guess I don't really know. Like what is prehistory? Well,
I'm going to kind of go into that in mine, but okay. I consider prehistory 10,000 BCE plus.
Okay, so
it's before written history, because really,
sure.
I don't know. Like the thing I thought about when I was doing that was like, does cave paintings count as their history being written down?
That's
like
what
to
I was,
them, even though we can't read it as that. Like, but
right.
You know what they consider it as pre-written history. They don't consider it pre-art history. They consider it pre-written history.
Right, because it was pictographs, like I said, about like where to find water or how to not get eaten by something. You know what I mean? Like that's my understanding of a lot of like early cave paintings it was like educational, right? So
could have been, yeah. I don't know.
I have no idea. Here's what I'll say. I learned in mine just how little I know about something that I thought that I knew. So, like, I thought I knew what prehistory was until I just started talking. And then I'm like, I actually don't even know what that means. So,
I mean, I'll get all into it, but, like, it's interesting because creative art came before functional art. So, like, pottery came long after paintings of animals. I'm going to not say too much, though, because a lot of it's in there. Okay. I also don't know if there's a fact in there. I think it's just me rambling. I put a couple of facts, but now I think about it, they're not really about art. But
we said that this is our perspective on what the 2 topics means.
So here's kind of where I went with it. I already love learning about prehistory and all the discoveries and mysteries and stuff with it. I watch a lot of Stefan Milo videos, and I just finished the book Cave Paintings by Charles Rivers Editors. I had to look that up 3 times because it doesn't seem like a last name that you would have as an author.
What's the last name? Editors?
Editors.
I saw this thing on, I want to say it was on Reddit, where it was talking about the World Poker Star winner of the world in 2000 something. And his last name was like Moneyball or something. It was like crazy. And it just didn't seem real at all, but it was. Yeah. But anyways, okay. So his last name is Editors.
Editors, yeah. It's a good book. Short book, but a good book. I also love Göbekli Tepe, which is like one of the earliest sites. All of that stuff. So I thought that, I guess we already did this, but I was going to define prehistory.
Yeah.
I defined it for my thing. I don't know if there's a specific one. There probably is. I defined it as 10,000 years ago or more. But really, it should be 10,000 BCE or before.
Okay.
So that was kind of my definition. Which originally I was going to do Easter Island and the Moai because I've learned some really cool stuff about that. But I think that was like 14 to 1600. So not really prehistory.
No.
That's full history. So anyway, I thought with it being art, with it being humans, with it being, I mean, not all humans, that it would be cool to go back to like the original, like when it started, the earliest caves they found, and sort of where we went from primal instincts to like expression and creativity, self-expression, depending on how you look at it. I mean, so with the art side of things, I am a sometimes artist and painter, so it was kind of a close to me topic. And it was kind of freeing to think about art in that form where there's no like galleries and sales and
slow turn paintings on Instagram.
Yeah, it's just pure. So it's cool to think about that.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people that say art is what makes us human. And so this is one fact that I think is kind of cool, is that Neanderthals made art. So it's not what makes us human. That's a cool art fact, I think. I did also look into that because, and this is going to be a different topic if I ever roll animals in prehistory, but there are animals that you could consider making art. There's a bowerbird that makes nests out of different things and like tries to make the most creative nest. Whether that's the same or not is debatable, but yeah, I didn't count like you paint your turtle and let him walk over paper. I don't think that's
sure.
I don't think that counts for what I was talking about.
Sure.
Yeah, I was considering like what creatures make art unprompted and like basically invented it for themselves, because like the early humans, like they had to invent the idea of like putting an image on something. Like that's crazy to go from, just hunter-gatherers to, hey, I should paint this.
I also think like it depends on how you define art, but I also think like birds that have incredible displays when trying to mate and have like evolved to have really colorful wings or to have things that move and bob when they're dancing for a potential mate. Like, is that art? Was that an evolution of art over time? I think it's an interesting.
I thought about that in this because it's the question of, is that art?
Or is it just pretty?
Well, yeah, it's like, it almost seems like art kind of falls outside of, what would you call that? Like evolutionary push. Because like it doesn't affect that. So like most animals are really pushing for their, I mean, in a broad sense, they're pushing for their species to survive. And there might be ways you could look at that where the art did help that.
Yeah.
But not really, not specifically.
Yeah.
Until you get into like pottery and useful things.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say, right? Is like, once again, it's like if a person is like painting a picture of a bear to let other people know this is what a bear looks like. Yeah. Is that informative or is it art? It's just so complicated, like what you call art.
Well, and it's interesting because you think like, I don't know, like we're reading Children of Time. And I just think like, the interesting part in that book is there's a small sample size for this, but it seems like the next step after you evolve sentience is you create religion. And it does feel like reading all this that it really quickly became the animals that they hunt and eat and get killed by became deities in some sense because they definitely like held them up to reverence. It's not just scratching on the wall because you're bored. But I mean, I'll get into all that. The other thing I found interesting was I was watching a lot of George Neal videos. He's a professor of something. There's going to be a link on here.
I'll put what it is.
Yeah, he talked about how the paintings in the caves tended to be large animals, a lot of times dangerous animals. It's a lot of buffalo, it's a lot of bulls, it's a lot of, larger animals. You don't really see it's proven they were eating rabbits and little things. They don't paint those. So it does feel like it's this they brought it up to this reverence level. Also, the animals tended to be more realistic. Here's another artifact. Here's my artifact.
You found it?
There's a few in here. I think this was my main one. It's kind of broad, but George Neal talks about how, I think it was 40,000 years ago in Lascaux Cave. And I think there's other samples for this, but the animals tended to be very anatomically correct. They tended to be realistic. They were drawn with perspective, a lot of side views of the animals, but they were realistic. And over time, over 10,000 years, they became more abstracted, more conceptual. So I think that's interesting because it doesn't seem like it would go that way. But so as humans evolve further and further, it's almost like their emotional world opened up. And so it wasn't all about here's
survival.
A depiction.
Yeah, I wonder if it's that, or if I wonder if maybe it was everyone knows what a bear looks like, so we can just do the basic concept of it because I don't know. Yeah, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
To think of them becoming more abstracted over time.
Yeah. Because in later periods, he was talking about there's a thing called hybrid perspective, I think. And it's basically if you think of a bull attacking you, you think of the horns facing you, but they would draw the bull from the side view but the horns would be facing you. So it's they used different perspectives tied together to kind of give you all the.
Yeah, I think in some ways that kind of makes sense, especially too in thinking about evolution, because when you're teaching a kid about animals, you're a cat goes meow, a cow goes moo, right? You're not diving further into it. You're needing to focus on the things that matter, and the things that matter right now are animals make sound. So bulls have horns, you know what I mean? It's a more simplistic, here's what you need to know right now version of it.
Well, it's interesting to think of it it's some form of communication, but so the main cave that I looked into, which I think is really cool, is Lascaux Cave in France. And what I learned watching all of it is they aren't sitting around bored. I always thought, they're sitting around in the cave, living there, and they're bored and they draw on the walls. And George Neal talked a lot about that's not the case. They built scaffolding and they did it by torchlight, and they went through a lot to do it. It was definitely more of some sort of practice that meant something to them. It was not boredom. There's a 17-foot painting of a bull in that cave.
Oh, wow.
From, I can't remember exactly, 17 to 20,000 years ago. And it's up. It's not head level on the wall. I can't remember how high he said, but it's you have to build something to get up to it.
Wow.
And it also uses the rocks to give it dimension. It's not just plastered on the wall. It's really crazy to think about.
Remember when we were kids and you'd lay on the playground and you'd just be staring up at the clouds because there was nothing else to do. And you'd be that cloud looks like a bull. It's almost like they saw maybe the structure for it and we're okay, this is the opportune space to make this because of the rock structures. Yeah,
it's in the Hall of Bulls, so there's a bunch of bull paintings in this space. And it's I don't think it's crazy deep into the cave. I don't remember seeing how far down it was. But the interesting thing about Lascaux Cave was boys, I think they were teenagers, were out in the woods with their dog, and their dog fell down a hole. And when they went to get him out, something happened, a rock fell, or they threw a rock in and they heard it echo. And that's how that cave was discovered. The little puppy discovered it. I think there's even pictures. It wasn't that long ago.
Wow.
I think, they're black and white, so I guess.
In the grand scheme, not that long ago.
In the grand scheme, considering how old that cave is.
Yeah.
So So reading all this, I started to ask myself, like, how do you live in the Ice Age? You're traveling to keep up with food sources, and you probably live in a small group. Like, where does the urge to make artwork come from? Like, how do you go from instinct and hunting for food and reproducing? Like, how do you get there to where it's important for you to spend a lot of time making art? We evolved from basically rodents. So, like, at some point back, we didn't have art. There was no importance to it. So anyway, in all my research, my uneducated, unprofessional, don't know anything guess is that it must be tied into, like, human brains have a very strong urge to find patterns in things and to find faces in things. And my guess is, if you, like you said, if you look at a cloud long enough, you see a rabbit. If you look at a cave wall long enough, you, like, want to see that animal. And the next step would be to bring that out of that rock and find a way.
Well, I mean, that's also kind of talked about in Children of Time, right? Where they talk about how humans have a tendency to see patterns even where there aren't some.
There's a word for that. I can't remember what it is.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense in some ways, but it's just crazy to think about the first person. There had to be a first person. I mean, there didn't, when airplanes were invented, like, multiple people were kind of getting there at the same time, but there's no communication around the world at this point. So, like, multiple people could have done it the first time, but somebody probably did it the first time.
Right. The environment was good enough all over the world in order for it to have evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about things like that, especially too, like, in such an interconnected society like what we have right now. Like, you remember that phenomenon of, like, the S's? Like, every kid in the world drew the S's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or things like that, where it's like, nobody was telling us all to draw those S's on our notebooks, but we just were. Like, it was just coming out of us,
Yeah, it's weird. It, like, gets in the ether somehow.
Yeah, maybe it's aliens.
So anyway, I think that idea just probably translated outward, apparently, like, eventually. And so then you see a rock, it looks like an animal, you make it look more like an animal so other people can see it. And then that's before artwork probably predates language. So it's a form of communication, which I think at one point I learned about in the Middle Ages, like, most people couldn't read. But if they looked at a painting, they could tell you the story. And, like, now people look at a portrait, or like the Mona Lisa, and it's a portrait, and they go, okay, it's a person, and it's well painted, and it's got interesting features. But, like, back then, they would see what's in the background. They would see the way the person was facing. They would see the color tonality, and they would know what that painting was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was, like, learning that about people was really tantamount to the Catholic Church growing in the Middle Ages, because they realized that things like stained glass or like intricate murals on the wall, illuminated Bibles, things like that were a really helpful way of, like, spreading the word of God. And they didn't have to invest the time and energy into teaching all these people how to read or read in another language if it was in Latin, right? That they could just use art to depict really complex topics. It is interesting how the human eye can kind of naturally see those things, like perspective or coloration, and derive meaning from it.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to think, like, before you could say, hey, watch out for that bull, or hey, I find that bull to be one of my, like, I revere it as a part of my world because I know it's bigger than me and it can kill me, and also it can feed my family for a month. Like, how do you tell other people that when you don't have a specific language for it, even though maybe they're workshopping it? I don't know. But, like, the way you would do it is you would draw it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's interesting, though, because you say that, and I do think it makes sense, but I think psychologically there's more to it, because if you look through those caves, like Lusco Cave and I think it's called Chevelle Cave, a lot of French caves, you see the animals, especially early ones, painted very realistically with a lot of attention to detail. And then you see humans that a lot of them were basically stick figures. A lot of them don't have faces. Some of them are hybridized with animals. So you have a lot of human bodies with bird heads and things like that. So it's interesting that the animals were, okay, we're going to paint this bull exactly how it looks. and then it's going to be attacking a human that is it's ostensibly a stick figure.
When you're saying that, it's making me think about a lot of indigenous cultures, or just even cultures around the world that still exist today, that have a lot of reverence for large animals. Because I think, like you said, there's this beauty in something that can provide food and sustenance, that can show you where other food and water sources are, that when skinned can provide clothing for your family, and also has that power to destroy you, right? Like, I see how easy the jump is to go like, this animal must be closer to God than me, because look at all these things it can do for me and all these things it can take away from me.
Yeah.
And so I think that probably like makes a lot of sense, that they would see this animal and want to understand it because of its power, both good and bad.
I did more research on this a little bit, but like, is that tied into like, that's the early times of us forming self-identity? So like, is that an early version of not being quite able to see ourselves as distinct? Or I don't know. So it's like a weird self-identity question. It makes me really happy about the artwork part though, because I'm like, man, can you imagine you don't care about saving it for the future? You're not thinking about that. You're thinking, how
do I depict something in the way that I see it?
Yeah. Which is another thing that I think is interesting, because if I went down in a cave and I was in Torchlight now, I've seen a bunch of bulls. I don't know if I could draw one correctly, and they were doing that off memory. It's not like they could sketch it beforehand.
Yeah, but you think about like how fast-paced our world is. If like your world was rock, stick, tree, rock, stick, tree, bull, rock, stick, tree, you'd probably remember the bull pretty good.
Yeah. So you and I have watched a lot of Naked and Afraid. Big fan. We also played the game Ancestors. I don't know if y'all know that game. So you're basically like pre-human, and you have to take your tribe and eat and survive and invent things and pass it down genetically. And watching both of those, I don't know how you make time to make art. I mean, I guess if you have a big group, like your family's like 20 people, and there's there's like people in charge of hunting, there's people in charge of making the food, then I guess I could see how it would come about. But it still seems like if you had that time, you would use it to make something to carry your food in, or just mind-boggling to think they thought, first I'm going to go paint this bull. So in thinking about all this, it just kind of makes me happy to be in the arts and in the gaming community, because as much as those don't seem like they're connected, I think a lot of gamers, even if it's indirect, even if they don't think about it, are huge art appreciators and consumers of art. And it's like in the least pretentious way possible. It's not like the gallery system. It's like a beautiful game, or, like they hold value in a game's aesthetics and feel and the storytelling of it and the creativity of it. And that's, what we started with. So, and it's just nice when AI and corporations are tempting us to do it the easy way and taking away art jobs. And I just think the soul of art is, look what I overcame to make this. Look what pain I went through to make this. Look at the time I spent, and look at it, how it paid off. That's a good lesson. Just here's something the computer made for me. No offense to anybody who uses it, but I just don't think it has the same level of like emotional value. Okay, so that was my prehistory. I think I did okay.
I think you got several art facts in there.
Oh, nice.
A question that I had for you is like, you talked about how they were really anatomically correct, and then they became more abstracted.
Not really abstracted, more conceptual.
Conceptual, yeah. And then we like transitioned into a period of time where art was useful, and that lasted for a long time. And now we're in this new world where there's computer assistance or AI generation of art. And so in some ways, we're so far away from 17-foot anatomically correct bull. And you said something about how like, maybe their emotional worlds got bigger. Like, do you think that having a distracted life takes away from the ability to make art that reflects reality? Like, do you think that plays a role?
I don't know. It's hard to say. It's interesting because there's just kind of a mirror to that, in that realistic art was the norm in like the 19th century.
Yeah.
And when photography came out, because you could capture actual realism, painters started getting more and more abstracted. So I don't know. I mean, if you look at it on that term, like there's no way to tell why it would have done that. My only thought was like your inner world grows and you're less concerned about it being real and you're more concerned about it feeling like it feels to you. But I don't know. There's so many ways to think about that. Also, here's another art fact.
Oh, tell me another art fact.
Out.
It sounded like I just said fart fact.
I didn't follow this lead, but you know how Picasso did the bulls, the island bulls? So he visited Lusco Cave in the Hall of Bulls.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he talked a lot about prehistoric art during that. So.
Another thought that I had while you were talking is that I listened to this video about, it was an interview with Alex Connor and the guy who wrote If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. I don't remember his name. I'll put it at the bottom. And they were talking about how, they were talking about his theory of what makes humans special, right? And one of the things is that like we are such social creatures. And so I'm wondering, like, in any of your research or just your thoughts about like the purpose of art as a social mechanism. Like, do you think that was part of it?
Yeah, it did seem like it. George and Neal talked a lot about like, I don't know if it's really a joke. I don't know that many prehistorians, but a lot of archaeologists and prehistorians, it's sort of a funny thing. They go, if you can't explain it, it was probably ritual. That seems ritualistic in some way to me, whether it's religion, I don't know, or animal worship or whatever. There had to be a purpose. Yeah. I don't think it was record keeping because at the time it was the Ice Age and they had to travel and follow their food everywhere. So it's not like they were living long term in that cave.
Interesting. Okay, my last question and thought. Okay. You talked a little bit about, you know, how do you make time for it, right? And my first thought was, so in communities of hybrid humans, there were hunters and there were gatherers, right? And I'm wondering, it seems to me like it would be more the gatherers who have the time to be able to do it. But then the hunters would be the ones who have the eyesight of the animal. So then it becomes this weird question of like, are they communicating with each other? Is it a collaborative task?
Yeah, I don't know much about that, like how the dynamics worked. I know I watched the Prehistory podcast, and we'll put the person who made it up. I'm not positive who it is. It's on Audible for free, but I listened to it, and he talked a lot about the other side of it, which is another way I could have gone, is body modifications were happening at the same time. So there's a lot of like ways of expressing. He also talked about like that is a way to like mark your tribe as your tribe. And those, again, were not light duty things. Like the first one he talked about, I threw my headphones down because I didn't like it.
Okay, so mine was paleontology board games. Where do you think I went?
I forgot I have to do this. I thought about it a little bit. I didn't think about it a lot. I know there's dinosaur board games.
Yeah.
I think I've seen paleontology video games, but I don't think I've seen board games. So maybe you went with, I know Egyptians had some form of board game, so maybe you went with that. Like, okay. Wait, no, paleontology though. Yeah. I know the Greeks discovered some dinosaur bones. Maybe they made games out of them. I don't know.
Okay, you're about to find out. So when I was thinking about paleontology board games, I realized that I have kind of a general understanding of paleontology. I mean, I did go to paleontology summer camp when I was a kid. Side note on that, my dad bought me this mini paleontology tool set, and I lost it while I was at that camp. And then I checked the lost and found, and it wasn't there, which means that a kid stole my paleontology tool set, or an adult. And I just want to say for the record, I am not over it, and I don't forgive them. Rude, yeah. I was 8.
What if you buried it? And 1,000 years from now, it's a paleontology kit.
Anyways, so my first task was to understand paleontology better than I did when I was 8 years old.
Sure.
So I found a National Geographic educational article rated for 12th grade readers. So now I have the knowledge equivalent of an 18-year-old. Nat Geo defines paleontology as, quote, the study of history of life on Earth as based on fossils. Fossils are the remains of plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, and single-celled living things that have been replaced by rock materials or impressions of organisms preserved in rock, close quote. I learned in this research that resin and sap are not at all the same thing. So,
interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Sap is tree's blood.
Sure.
And resin is used to heal a tree's wounds.
Okay.
They're entirely chemically different. So every tree has sap, but not every tree has resin.
Interesting. So is amber resin? Or
amber is resin.
Interesting.
So anyways, back to the point. The article also noted that paleontologists use fossils to postulate, hypothesize, and hopefully ultimately understand, quote, the evolutionary history of organisms, close quote. The obvious way to go was to list some of the board games about paleontology. So I did a bit of research on that, even though I knew that that wasn't entirely where I wanted to go. So here are a few board games about paleontology that have been lauded by paleontologists as accurate. The first one is Holotype Mesozoic North America. I think there's also a European one. Mesozoic, I apologize. You collect fossils, conduct research, and publish your findings in a worker placement board game. It includes cladistics, which I learned is a classification technique to categorize organisms into groups called clades.
Clades, yeah.
Based on a hypothesis of most recent common ancestry. And typology, which I learned from a blog called Coastal Paleo, is, quote, a style of thinking in which every fossil species conforms to a different morphological anatomical type. It should be relatively easy to identify two fossils of the same species because according to typological thinking, they should look close to identical, close quote. AKA, if you've seen a pig, you know what a pig's bones look like. You can find another pig.
Oh, interesting.
So those are the two types of paleontological research that Holotype uses. Yeah.
Can I throw in a fact?
Yeah, please do.
I just learned this the other day. I'll have to look up the source because it's a dude's video. It's a paleontologist video. But he talked about how you can, if you're in a clade with something else, you can never get out of that clade. You can't evolve out of a clade, which means we are everything we were before we were human.
That means our dog Frank is a wolf.
Yeah, and probably a salamander if you get far enough back.
I hope he's a salamander.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's cool. So the second board game that I found is called Taphonomy, Dead and Fossilized, which was actually made by a former PhD student and Doctor of Geological Sciences, Dr. Rowan Martindale, and is, quote, modeled after the Yahatinda Lagerstate, an early Jurassic aged fossil deposit in Canada, close quote.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it was literally formed out of PhD research, so it is very accurate.
Oh, that's cool.
And then the last one that I found is called Fossilis. It's a board game where you dig at sites until you can use tweezers to extract bones to make discoveries, publish in paleontology journals, and turn in specimens to museums.
Are there actual tweezers?
There's tweezers. It's like Operation, except for there's no buzzer.
Nice.
And it's for, I think, a slightly older audience.
Nice.
Yeah, it looked kind of cool, actually. Yeah. But then I wondered, do paleontologists ever use board games to make discoveries? So then the first thought I had after that was game theory. So game theory refers to mathematical models used to understand strategy, equilibrium, rationality, and interactions between two or more people. So it may sound like it's talking about board games, but I read a lot of academic articles, way more than I wanted to. And after all of that, I discovered that they're not the same thing. Mathematical game theory and the mathematics of games are actually two entirely different schools of thought. So that didn't work out. I even found an article written on League of Game Makers where a guy named Tom Jolly, great name, tried to apply game theory to game mechanics in a worker placement game and learned that it doesn't really work.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So game theory has been around for as long as people have made decisions, with the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy noting that even Socrates discussed concepts related to it. And then it was first formally introduced into the academy as an economic concept in the 1940s, making its way into the natural sciences by way of evolutionary game theory in the 1970s. So evolutionary game theory and paleontology do have some overlap. But since it's not related to board games, I needed to move on. I did want to point out one thing.
Yeah.
So like I said, I read a lot of academic articles about game theory that I didn't have to read.
Mm.
And then at the end of all of that, I realized that to understand game theory, you just need one example, the prisoner's dilemma.
I wondered if you were going to say
So if you're not familiar with the prisoner's dilemma, it was created in the 1950s to understand how two rational agents may be able to choose cooperation in an irrational setting. So it's a made-up scenario where two prisoners are held in separate rooms, they can't communicate, and are given an offer, either stay silent or betray the other. If they both stay silent, they get a light sentence.
Mm-hmm.
If they both betray each other, they each get a medium sentence. If one betrays, but the other one doesn't, the silent one gets a heavy sentence.
Mm.
I don't know if you guys have seen, but it's that same thing as the red or blue button debate that went around on social media earlier this year. It's kind of that same concept.
Is it the same as like the door 1 through 3 thing?
Yeah, that's all under game theory, right? It's trying to understand how people make decisions.
Is that a trolley problem? Is that?
No, that one I think would be more like sociological than economic and mathematical.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it has to have mathematical underpinnings to kind of be housed in game theory based on my understanding. But yeah, so I just thought I would give an example of like, that's what game theory is. It's not like move a meeple on a board, which is what I was hoping that it was going to be. I saw evolutionary game theory in one article and I was like, bingo. And then I learned that is not it. Okay, so that one was a bust. But maybe a paleontologist used a board game to discover something, like the impetus to a eureka moment or something. You know, maybe they're like, I don't know, they're playing Everdell and they're like, wait, we haven't checked the forest. I don't know.
Or threw a dart at a map. Is darts a board game?
We'll call it a board game. It's a board on the wall, right?
It's a board.
So that was then what I spent a lot of time looking for, and I couldn't find anything. So if you're a paleontologist who has used a board game to discover something, let me know, because I tried to find you and I couldn't. So my final findings, I went back to Google Scholar. I erased any traces of game theory from my search history. And then I looked for paleontology board games. I put the board games in quotes because I was hoping that that would bring what I needed to the surface. And then I thought I probably should have started here, but that seemed too easy. Turns out too easy was exactly what I needed. But we learned some things along the way. So I found two interesting articles. The first is called, quote, Archaeopteryx Fossil, a paleontological puzzle activity to engage undergraduate science majors, close quote. That's the name of the article.
Wow.
Yeah. It was published in 2024 in Futurity Education. It outlines an educational strategy for teaching undergrads not to just think about the hard science of fossil identification, but how to think and collaborate like scientists, using discovery and critical thinking to unlock portions of the work. So from my understanding, it seems like they had a fossil that they had to identify, and they had to work together to unlock more parts of the fossil. So it was a great way to teach them not just things like classification or typology, but what that means in the real world if you're actually on a dig site.
Sure.
The article cites a practical use of the strategy as an intervention with 140 students, noting that 98.6% of students had a positive experience and, quote, most students could identify the Archaeopteryx fossil as a bird, quote, by the end. They noted in the article that this could be modified to meet many levels of education and scientific areas of study. So that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
It's more like an overlap between education and paleontology. So, but then I found the bingo. And it makes me really upset that you called the bingo when you guessed what I would talk about.
I know, what was it?
You'll see. So the second article, published in 2022 in the Board Game Studies Journal, is entitled, quote, "Why So Serious? An Extraordinary Cone Shell Group from Mycenae and the Problem of Identifying Mycenaean Board Gaming Material." Do you know where Mycenae is?
It's in Greece.
It's in Greece. You said Greek, and I was like, do you know how much work I went to just ask my husband?
Yeah.
So this article is about 30 pages long and is a fascinating read. It includes pictures of the shells, maps where they were found, and great historical context. Basically, in 1974, there was a guy named G.E. Milonis who was excavating 11 buildings in Mycenae, which is an ancient Greek city, now a dig site and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, about 12 miles inland and almost 900 feet above sea level. In the middle of one of the rooms, in, quote, "an organic container, probably a cloth or leather bag," close quote, he and his team found, quote, 545 conus mediterraneus shells with 12 small lead objects, close quote. Of the 545 shells, 353 of them had a hole in them and a flat surface. And of the 353, 9 were filled with lead, and it was surmised that the others had previously been filled with red clay that had dissipated over time. The article notes that, quote, "careful examination revealed that the modification of the shells was a time-consuming task, demanding precision, performed even in the smallest shells measuring 1 or 2 centimeters long," close quote. The opening side of the shell was first ground down to a flat surface, then the hole was formed, then the spine inside the shell was crushed and removed, leaving a hollow body, and finally it was filled. The article goes on to explain that the shells are, quote, "hosts to an inedible venomous snail, which is why it must be handled with caution, as stinging or consumption may cause neurological paralysis or even death. Thus, it could not have been used for dietary reasons or as fish bait in antiquity. The gastropod is also carnivorous, feeding on other mollusks by penetrating their shells," close quote. So the shells have long been tied to gaming in paleontological and archaeological digs in this region. The article lists the history of this and notes that the hypothesis is backed up by the fact that there was a specialized custom of putting shells as offerings on children's graves. The guess is that the cones were flattened and filled to be tossed or rolled, thus making it a child's game. So if children died, they would put these at the grave sites. In this discovery that he found, Milonis, 12 small lead artifacts were also there. There were 7 pellets increasing gradually in size and weight, 3 cones and 2 discs. It has been interpreted that the 3 cones and 2 discs were likely game markers, and the 7 pellets looked, quote, "remarkably like a set of marbles." There were other items in the room that cannot be directly linked to gameplay, but perhaps require more investigation or will later be tied to gameplay through other discoveries. The paleontological connection comes in the shape of a large fossil, now believed to belong to a rhinoceros species, that is, quote, "the oldest object to have ever been found at Mycenae, dating as far back as the Pliocene or the Pleistocene." For those of us who may not remember when that was offhand, I looked it up. It's between 5.33 million and 11,700 years ago.
It's a long time ago.
The article links this find to another dig in Syria where a bovine astragalus was, quote, "rolled with the purpose of knocking over the maximum number of smaller, lighter bones," close quote. The supposition is that perhaps the purpose of the rhino bone in this context was to knock down or move the shells, or perhaps as a large die, quote, "as in the late Babylonian rules for the game of 20 squares," close quote. So the fossil was modified, and they also don't really even know how the owners of this fossil came to have it. Like there is no record of how it was moved there, why they had it, what kind of stories they told each other and themselves about where it came from. There's no real record of that.
I didn't know there was ever hippopotamus in that area at all.
Rhino.
Oh, rhinos.
Yeah, rhino. Yeah, I didn't really look it up. I should have, but like, I'm wondering if they surmise like what region it's from.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the shells traveled a long way. If they were 12 miles inland and 900 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
And they were venomous. I mean, it's kind of a long way to travel. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so I think that that's probably why they don't know if it's from the Pleistocene or from the Pliocene, is because of the modifications that have happened to it over time.
Right. Yeah.
Until the time of this article, there has, quote, been no specialized study on the subject of Mycenaean board gaming, close quote. The article actually talked about how the Mycenaean society has kind of been depicted in this very stoic, serious manner, and that there's not a lot of depictions as Mycenaean people being jovial or playing, right? But we have these things that prove otherwise, and we might not know exactly how they were used, but they were obviously used for some sort of entertainment, right? So it's just kind of interesting. The author also notes that, quote, hopefully for further systemic research will illuminate more thoroughly on this neglected subject. I mean, the article was only written in 2022, so there's the opportunity for growth there. I highly encourage any of you, if you're interested in this, to read it. It's a relatively easy read for an academic article, and it's such a fascinating look into what happens when paleontology, archaeology, and gaming intersect. So tell me what you knew about Greeks and fossils.
Oh, not much. I don't even know if this is scientifically accurate, but I know that there's speculation that the Greeks found fossils, even though I don't think they really knew what they were. But I read something one time about the theory. I don't think this is proven, that they found this one dinosaur's bones, and because it had a big crest, a lot of times it was thin and it would fall apart. And so it looked like a big face oversized human head with one hole in the middle. And that's where they think that's where the myth of Cyclops came from. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have seen pictures of those bones like that, and it does look like a big Cyclops head. So I think it's possible, but I don't know that it's proven.
Wow. That's interesting.
But I think that's the only. So I knew they had found some of them, but I didn't know anything else. Yeah,
I'm really curious to see if there's more research on them trying to figure out what the game was with the shells.
I know.
And then these like little marble things. And it almost did look like a 7-piece set of dice. Like it was 7 of and they just got incrementally bigger, but they were all round.
Weird. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how you would even figure that out.
Yeah. Well, they had talked about how it looked like they found what kind of almost looked like a modern day checker piece. And then they found kind of what looked like it could have been a game mat, but they were all over the room. But then the shells and the cones and the spheres were in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
And the article also talked about how this is like the largest gathering of these venomous snail shells that they've ever seen, ever found.
Yeah. Interesting.
It sounds like it might be an ancient gaming room.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah. It made me kind of think when you said that about you don't really think of people at that time period of having fun. It made me think of, how like Victorian photos, everybody looks so serious. But the reason is because the camera took forever. You couldn't hold a smile for 5 minutes while the camera went off. So you think of those people as like very stoic and depressed, and everybody wasn't.
Well, yeah, because it could have been something where like in Mycenaean society, I mean, there's a lot of cultures like that even today where there's an expectation that you act a certain way in public. And then you act a lot more relaxed in your own home environment with your own small group of people, right?
Yeah.
And so like, it's not crazy to me to think that like their kids and their young people or even, older people were having fun in private and then still having like a very stoic external personality.
Yeah. I think the interesting part about that is like, I don't know, like kids don't change. Like kids back then would have been bored. They would have been looking for something to do. I think the interesting part is the kids probably aren't the ones getting those shells if they're poisonous. The parents are doing it for them. So there must be some sort of like they must see some sort of benefit from entertaining the kids with this game.
Well, yeah, because it almost sounded like, I mean, with the fact that the snails were so venomous, it almost did seem like maybe it was like I don't know, a status symbol, right? Of like they probably had people who went and got them for them, other people who took the risk of death in order to gather the shells for them. But then also to like doing that work of like grinding and creating the hole and breaking out the shell and then filling it with something like once, like I was saying, like that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And to do it 353 times, like they were mini painting.
They had a game store and they sold all that.
Maybe they did. They walked in and said, "I'll take all your shells."
All your poisonous shells.
Yeah, and then they found what was like a big piece of lead in the room too that they believe it was smelted off of to be able to fill stuff with.
Interesting. Does lead have a low melting point?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting too. Yeah, like you said, like kids will be kids. But like, was it parents or folks that they had around them that were spending their evenings like smelting lead into tiny little shells for their kids, right?
Huh. What kind of society was it? Like
Greek? I don't know.
Like, do they have villages or are they living outside?
Yeah. So this was in a citadel, which was like 11 buildings that originally were all separate, and then over time corridors and pathways had been paved out to get them all to connect to each other. So it was a communal living of sorts, right? Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's my paleontology board game.
Nice.
And also I'm really interested in playing one of those paleontology board games now.
Yeah, we should. That'd be cool.
Oh, I meant to say too, when you were talking about video games, I saw this article. I didn't read it. I just kind of read the beginning of it. That was talking about how mad paleontologists are at paleontological video games. Because they're inaccurate, and that's not how you use fossils. And fossils aren't used for forward identification; they're used for backwards identification.
Two sides on that, because I don't know. Like, I watch a lot of things about like paleontologists.
Sorry, our camera battery died. What were you saying?
I was just saying I watch a lot of videos. Like, I'm gonna have to look up the guy's name. I think it's David Horn. He's a British paleontologist. Really cool to watch. He does a lot of studies on T-Rex. He talks a lot about like how wrong Jurassic Park got it. But at the same time, like millions more people do paleontology now because they watched that movie and it inspired them. And I think that's interesting. Like a lot of people that do technology now grew up with Star Trek and like even if it's not accurate, it like still inspires people to do things.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be interesting to see if they ever did like now that we know more historically accurate version of Jurassic Park, because I think all the people would be like, "Oh my God, those dinosaurs are freaky."
It's just a turkey.
It's just feathers.
Yeah, the raptors are. I think they figured that out after. They just like the name, but actual velociraptors are about the size of a turkey.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean that kind of makes sense with their temperament, right? Yeah, because turkeys are annoying. Sorry to people who love turkeys. What percentage of people do you think love turkeys?
Not eating them?
Yeah, no, they just like enjoy the concept of a turkey.
Not many.
Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
Wasn't that who it was? That suggested that the turkey be our...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say, but totally off to the side. But even that, like they live in a group. He was saying if you have a bunch of animals living in a large area, and there's a flood and they all get pushed into a river, you can't just go, okay, they lived in a group, because they might not have lived in a group.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. Or like, remember that book that you got me for Christmas a couple years ago that was like crazy fun facts, and it was talking about how like T-Rexes, like if they were walking the earth today, they weren't like a bloodthirsty animal type, and they would like need to eat the equivalent of like one human a month. Like they wouldn't go on some big killing spree just because they were around.
Yeah.
If they weren't hungry, they wouldn't kill.
Right.
So yeah, historically accurate Jurassic Park might not be that fun.
Yeah. Maybe not, yeah.
Yeah, that's the liberties that fiction gets to take, right?
That's right. I'm sure it'll get remade at some point and they'll try to go too far the other direction.
Yeah. That was our first one.
We did it.
Yay, we did it.
My first homework in forever.
What were you telling me about the Harry Potter actors?
I don't know if this is true. I think it is, but I read a thing about how when they filmed one of the Harry Potter movies, it might have been the first one. I think Christopher Columbus made it. Chris Columbus?
Not
that one. Anyway, he gave them the task of like each writing like an essay. The story is, which I don't know if this is true, but that Hermione turned in like an 8-page report. Not Hermione, you know, the actor.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look up names. Ron didn't turn his in at all, and then Harry like did a page double spaced, which was like accurate to the characters technically. Yeah. And I think that sums you and I up because I went on vibes and you did a bunch of research.
We did a bunch of research too.
I did.
Yeah.
But still.
All right. Well, we have to roll for next week now.
All right.
Okay. So as a reminder, we have our 20 topics here.
Yeah, we'll put them on the screen.
Yeah, we'll put them on the screen. And so we're each going to roll a D20 twice and then mish-mash it together. Mm-hmm. And we've made the decision that we are not going to re-roll if we get the same thing twice. So we might end up with things like video games about video games.
Mm-hmm. Animals about animals. That's actually a hard one. I don't know.
Animals about animals?
Yeah, that's doable, but stuff.
I feel like I could do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to roll now.
I'm curious what are the numbers on a D20? Like what's the spread and what's more likely? If you rolled it 10,000 times, like what are the chances you'd roll double numbers?
Oh, double numbers?
Yeah.
I think it's like 1 in 400, I think.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Somebody correct me if I got that wrong. Okay.
Which one do you want to roll?
I want to roll this guy.
Okay, we're gonna roll this one. All right, I'm a little nervous this time.
Yeah. I know, this is like, how much homework do we get? Right?
Yeah. All right.
I went first last time. You go first this time.
I don't know if I'm hoping for anything specific, but it's an 11.
Board games!
Oh, yeah, I got board games. Nice.
Okay.
There's some really easy ones, because like if I got animal board games, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I don't want to get academia though. That's your territory.
I already found the journal, Board Games Journal.
That's true.
Economics!
Yes. Okay, I can do that.
The economics of board games?
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh, man, I wish I got that one.
And I could mix it if I wanted to. I could do the board games.
Oh, you already know that one because I'm going to Dungeonomics at Gen Con.
Dungeonomics, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Board game economics or economics of board games.
16. Technology.
Okay, nice.
Okay, that's pretty broad.
Yeah. Oh.
Engineering.
Wait, what did you get? Oh, the technology of engineering. Interesting.
The technology of engineering or engineering with technology. There's a lot of ways to go with that.
Yeah, that might be the broadest topic on there.
Too broad. Okay, so yours is what again?
Economics of board games.
And mine is the technology of engineering. I'm gonna have to find a way to narrow that down.
Yeah.
Our dog also just laid directly underneath the camera.
Frank's director.
Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Right, good luck.